What's up, you guys, and welcome back to OMGG. Today is Tuesday, which can only mean one thing. It is time for a recap, review, whatever, of Pretty Little Liars. We are starting from the very beginning, and I have to admit, it's no longer on Netflix, and it was on Netflix when I did the first two reviews for you guys, and now I'm having a harder time trying to find the episodes, but I do think I found a website that I can use. I just hope it doesn't mess up my phone. But let's get into season 1, episode 3. So this episode was actually really good, and it made me think a lot about Pretty Little Liars and how everything came about. So in this episode, it's when we really start to see the involvement of Toby. And fun fact, it is the very first episode where the show ends with A doing something A like, which in this case, it was A taking the photos of Emily and Maya, I was going to call the girl Monica, Maya kissing and making copies of them, which we know happens in the next episode. So in this episode, it focuses around Noel Khan's party. It focuses with Arya dealing with Meredith, who is the woman that her father had an affair with, coming back into the picture and really trying to slither her way back into her father's life by getting to know Ella and everybody else and just really being a jerk. We also see the breakup of Emily and Ben, because Ben tries to force himself onto Emily in the girls' locker room while she's changing after swim practice, and Toby comes in and punches him in the face, and that was the end of Emily and Ben. We also see the breakup of Hannah and Sean, because Sean wants to wait until he gets married to have the sexual relations, and Hannah doesn't want to wait. And Spencer, poor Spencer. We'll start off with Spencer. So this is the episode where Spencer's sister is Melissa is really being just kind of I don't want to say melodramatic, but because I get it. Your fiance made out with your baby sister. That cannot be a good feeling. But at the same time, I just she was really being a brat and taking advantage of the situation. And so, they're in the kitchen and she's talking about how she feels with her mom, and Spencer walks in and she's just being really snarky towards Spencer in regards to, the wedding and everything else. And Spencer kind of gets tired of it, and she kept trying to tell Melissa, I didn't kiss him first. He kissed me. I'm not saying that it was right, but I feel like you need to know it wasn't me. So she wasn't trying to hear, and she was being really rude. And the mom was playing favoritism and siding with Melissa. And I'm going to get into a thought about that in a second. But yeah. And so just being fed up, Spencer was like, well, maybe you need to think about why he felt the need to. And then she stopped herself because the mom looked at her like, how dare you? So that was a thing. So feeling just kind of lost, she goes to New York and asks Ren if he can try to reach out to her family and explain that he was the reason why everything happened. And Ren was like, listen, Spence, I don't think it really matters. Your family has already decided that I'm the bad guy, and that's the end of that. And he ends it by saying, maybe the mistake that I made was falling for the wrong sister. And of course, that puts Spencer in her feelings, because Spencer is all of 14, 15, 16 years old, however old these girls are. And that was the end of that. When she gets back home, her mom and Melissa walk in from the country club. And Melissa says that Ren had called her and said that you had taken the train to the city, because remember, they live in PA. So, I mean, in theory, that is plausible. You taken the train to the city to ask him to just clear your name. And then she didn't believe that either. So I feel really bad for Spencer in this episode. And this stress is making her not be able to do her work. So she ends up stealing Melissa's paper and submitting it as her own for her AP Russian history class, which I didn't even know that was an AP class, but I mean, sure. So that was it for Spencer. As far as Aria is concerned, she was having lunch with her parents, and her mom went to go get her another muffin, and Meredith, which is the woman that her father, well, the student, not the woman because she was still a student, the student that the father had cheated on her with, shows up, and she's flirting with Byron in front of Aria, and like the viewer knows it, Aria knows it, the only person who doesn't really seem to get it is Byron. And so she's being like really disrespectful, and she's like, dude, but this goes back to why I don't like RB. So she's all like, dude, he's got a family, this, that, and the third, and you need to like stay away from him. And yet she goes back to school. She's over here trying to touch up on Ezra in his classroom. Like, I mean, it's different because Ezra isn't married, but like still, like, I mean, it's all just wrong. Anyway, so she goes to Ezra's classroom and invites him to the art gallery that Ella is doing. And he's trying to get her to go to Noel Khan's party because Noel Khan's having a party. And she's just like, no, I want to be with you. It's just really disturbing. Like, I can't stand RB, and I can't stand the relationship between RB and Ezra. And I think the older I get, the more disgusted I get by it. I'm not even gonna lie. But she like touches his hand, but then there's a knock on the door and another teacher enters, and then they act really awkward, and that's the end for Aria until she goes to the gallery. Actually, she went to go get food for the gallery for her mom, and when she walks in, she sees Meredith, and Meredith now trying to infiltrate a relationship with Ella, and I don't know the mind of like a stalker or the mind of like an adulteress, so I didn't understand why she was doing all of that. But Ella took the food away from Aria and took it to the back to start preparing it, and Aria made it very clear to Meredith that she needed to stop, that this could not work. He is a married man. You need to move on. Move forward to that night, and Meredith shows up at the party, and Aria's like, do you not remember our conversation? And Meredith was all like, you spoke, I listened, but I'm not in high school, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. She takes a drink from Aria's hand and walks right over to Byron and Ella. And I was just like, this trick is disrespectful. She tried Flynn. You're rude. So now moving on to Hannah. The biggest thing with Hannah is... What was the big thing with Hannah? With Hannah... they're all in school, and Hannah gets called into the office by the cop. I always forget his name. And he starts talking to her one-on-one, and she basically calls him out on his BS and walks out of the office. And as she's getting ready to leave for the party, for Noel Khan's party with Sean, the cop, Walden, that's his name. Detective Walden is there with Ashley, her mom, and they're about to have dinner or whatever. And Ashley catches him going through her stuff, and then he inadvertently admits that he had like questioned her routinely at her school. And Ashley's just like, what are you doing, bruh? Like, you need a warrant to go through her stuff, and technically I'm supposed to be there when you talk to her. So you know what? I've had about enough of you. And so he was like, you're right, my bad. Do you need help with dinner? Mind you, what was there to help? It was a box of pizza, but okay. And she was like, actually, yes. She takes a box of pizza and she says, you can have pizza somewhere else and breakfast too. And like, I get it because Ashley was trying to like help Hannah, but to what degree do you really go out of your way like that for your kid? I mean, I'm not a mom, so I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But that was that for like Hannah's mom. So then at Noel Khan's party, Hannah is trying to get Sean to sleep with her, and she makes like this little romantic comforting thing in the barn for them to sleep together, and he's just not with it. And so she thinks the reason why he doesn't want to sleep with her isn't really because of his religious choice like he had said the episode before, but it's because he still thinks of her as like hefty Hannah. And he said, no, actually, I like hefty Hannah. This Hannah, I don't know who she is, and she seems a little bit desperate. Hannah gets mad, and Sean feels bad because like he didn't mean to offend her, but like he got a point, right? And then all I could think of was like the books, because in the books that scene did play out in the book, but the only difference was that Sean actually ended up losing his virginity to Arya that same night. So it wasn't even so much about where, it was more so about who. And I think Sean just didn't feel like he could connect with Hannah on a level where he felt the need to sleep with her. But like Mona kept putting it in Hannah's head that like, you're not in a serious relationship unless you sleep together. And I don't know, maybe I was in a cloud of smoke in high school, but I don't remember at all this being like the topic that I spoke about with my friends. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was a geek. So sex wasn't the thing that I was thinking about in high school. It was not my number one focus. It was not my priority. But like, to me, it's just like, I can't imagine living a life like that where I just feel like having sex with someone defines my relationship or defines who I am as a person, because that's essentially what it boils down to, right? And like the whole entire time I just kept thinking about that part, like dang, like he really didn't sleep with her, but he turned around and slept with Arya in the book. I just kept thinking about that. So now we're going to talk about Emily, because Emily is the last one, of course. So, and then there's one with all of them together, but Emily is getting changed in the girls' locker room, and Ben comes in. Well, actually, before school had started, and he was like, oh, are you going to go? Ben said to Emily, are you going to go to Noel Khan's party? And he was being all flirty, and she wasn't comfortable with it, number one, in the beginning at all. But then, like, it got even more uncomfortable when Maya showed up, because Emily likes Maya. So, he's being all flirty, and she's trying to get him to stop, and she invites Maya to join them. And he's really irked by it, obviously. So then you fast forward, and she's done with swim practice, and she's getting dressed, and he appears out of nowhere in the locker room trying to like feel her up, grope her up, and basically is harassing her because she keeps saying no, and he keeps proceeding. And then all of a sudden he gets attacked, and at first I thought it was Maya. Well, I knew it was Toby because I've seen the show before, but like I'm thinking it like as a viewer seeing it for the first time. At first you would think that it's Maya because you know Maya likes her as well, and it is the girls' locker room. But then you find out that it's actually Toby. And so Ben thought that Toby was the reason why Emily did not want to like be around him and really like mess with him like that or be with him on that level. And she was like, don't flatter yourself. You know what? We're done. I'm done with you. So she ends up going to the party that night with Maya. And she sees him, obviously, and no one knows about it, but he does have a shiner from Toby kicking his butt. And he's like, so you did end up coming to the party? And she was like, yeah, just not with you. And she walks away, and she and Maya eventually end up in a photo booth, and that's where they take all the pictures, and the very last picture is them kissing, and A walks by and takes, or it was either A or like someone from A's army walks by and takes the photos, which is what we see at the very end. And obviously Emma is all like, what the heck? What the heck? So now fast forward to everybody's at the party, and Emily's freaking out because she doesn't know where the pictures are, and she knows that one of the pictures is of them kissing. Hannah is pissed because Sean didn't want to sleep with her, and she ends up taking his car keys and crashing his car. Spencer is all up in her feelings because she's just like, bruh, so much is going on with Melissa. And then she thought she saw Toby, but it ended up not being Toby. But it was still like, why are you sitting there creepily looking at her? Like, that was weird. And then she had a flashback to the whole situation where Allison threw the cherry bomb into the garage, and what led to, what's her name? Led to that girl being blind. And she told the whole entire group that she had walked up and overheard Allison threatening Toby with something, which is why Toby took the fall. But it was so weird to hear Spencer tell Emily that Toby was dangerous, and having Emily not believe it, because we all know the relationship between Spencer and Toby and like that whole big love romance. So that was really weird to hear. So there was that. And then in the middle of the episode, they kept trying to build a shrine to her in their favorite part of the woods, which was like so weird. Like, I mean, it's not weird because like they used to hang out at this particular part in the woods. So like to them, it seems like a nice place. But in lieu of the fact that Allison is murdered and like they're looking for everybody, it just seemed really weird that would be the place you decide to create like homage to her. And the first time they went, they heard a crackling in the woods and they got freaked out. And right after that, they got a message from A. The second time they went back to try and do it again, they heard the crackling in the woods and they ran after the person and the person was gone. But the little bracelets that Allison had got for all of them, Allison's was in the middle of the woods. And there was no A message. And the show just ended with A making the copies of the picture from the photo booth of Maya and Emily kissing. So overall, it was a decent episode. Like, we have to remember this was 2009, right? So completely different. But like overall, it was a pretty decent episode. And the one thing that I kept thinking about this whole entire episode was because we all know that it was Mona. We all know at this point that A is Mona. And if you didn't know, well, now you know. But we all know that it's Mona. And to me, because the focus for Hannah was so much about going back and being called Hefty Hannah, it made sense to me, everything at this point, which I never thought about before. So I never really thought about why Mona had a friendship with Hannah and no one else. But it all made sense, right? So Hannah was Hefty Hannah. Even though she was in the group with Allison, she was still the outcast. And that was something that Mona knew that she could kind of bond with Hannah over. And that if Hannah had a makeover and she had a makeover, it was something that they can share. Versus someone like Aria or Spencer or Emily who didn't have those kind of hangups of being really an outcast for any specific reason. You know what I'm saying? And then it also made sense as to why Mona would be A, because she's close to Hannah. So it worked out perfectly, right? Because she gets close to Hannah because they're best friends. Hannah tells her pretty much everything. Like, I'm pretty sure she asked Hannah if she wanted to hang out and she was like, I can't because we're creating a shrine in the woods for Allison. Like, I'm sure that came up in conversation, which was how Mona knew where to be at certain parts, especially in the first season. Like, I just felt like it was really apparent for me this third episode, like the reason why. But then we also know that Mona had gotten really close with Allison and helped Allison to disappear, which is how she knew all the things about the girls. So I think the compilation of having that close relationship with Hannah and also doing what she did with Allison made her like literally the perfect A, and it makes so much sense. And I always knew that Mona was A from the very first time I watched the show. Well, first I thought it was Spencer at first, but then I quickly realized that it wasn't Spencer, that it was actually Mona. But now watching it again and really thinking about it from a different perspective, it makes so much sense to me. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm older now, maybe, but I don't know. Like, just watching this episode, it just all made so much sense as to how Mona was the original A. And I'm actually really interested in keep watching the show to see when AD comes about. Not AD, Uber A. AD was Spencer's twin. When Charlotte becomes A. I'm very interested in seeing what I might have missed or what I now know to look for while I'm watching it to see the switch between Mona and Cece, Drake, or Charlotte, whatever you want to call her. But that was today's episode. I have a question for you guys. Please comment down below. I actually got requested to do a review of something called You, Me, You, and I don't know. Some creepy man named Joe is in it. I got asked to do a review of that. Is that something you guys would be interested in seeing? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you haven't, please check out my podcast, OMGG, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And with that, I'll be seeing you next Tuesday for another recap review, whatever, of Pretty Little Liars, Season 1. Loves and likes ya. Bye.